All right. Hi, my name is Becca St. James, and I am the creator of EDancer, and I'm going to read you the part 1 of chapter 1 of the audiobook for EDancer. Burning down the house. Market Street in San Francisco is a truly one-of-a-kind neighborhood. There is no neighborhood like Lower Market Street, which is a virtual 12 blocks from the Embarcadero. There are the guys down the street with this cheesy stereo shop selling crappy stereo equipment for what might seem to be cheap. Prices like $99.99 or $149.99 are prices used to lure the customer in. Most people don't realize, because they are in perpetual fascination with material life, that the 9 represents completion. It is the end. It is the end of a sale, that is. They buy a truckload of ghetto blasters for $10 a piece, and there it goes up on the shelf for $199.99 done. They are all probably stolen and bought for pennies on the dollar compared to the $2,000 markup it's about to be tagged with. I believe that is why they call it a steal. Across the street from Market Street and to the left of the club, on the corner, there's no other than Mickey D himself. This could be classified as the only clown in the world who is out to commit mass murder. Thanks to Morgan Spurlock, we know this condition as death by hamburger. And it is a long, slow one at that. The game is called Let's Pick on the People Who Are Hungry and Only Have $1. Or if you have $3, you can really get a jump on things. Then there is the head shop down the street towards 6th Street and directly across from the club. It's been there since the 60s. I swear every time I walk in the place I get a contact high off the stoners who are just hanging. Of course they're hoping someone is going to grab them and force them to smoke a joint with them. Some of the customers look as old as the shop plus 20, and they look like they've partied so hearty they're still high from last Saturday night back in 1969. But last but not least, there are the good people of Market Street. By that I mean the residents. It's cheap rent for the many that lay their heads down in the doorways. Their home, once it is dark, is Market Street. And by evening they're exhausted from bumming the last possible bit of change they can. Many of these good people are the drug addicts who are scamming their next fix or drink. Addiction is a disease that is indiscriminate. Whether you're black, white, striped, Hispanic, Chinese, gay, straight, Republican, Democratic, your addiction doesn't care. Alcohol is a drug, but people forget that because the pushers don't usually get busted, and it is completely accessible and legal. Some of these good people on Market Street aren't as fortunate to glamorously get shit-faced at a bar, fall into a cab, and then roll out into their condo, liver-drenched in poison. This sad crew wakes up at 6 with a prod by a police officer to move on. It was and is still not uncommon to be walking along the street and look down to find a dirty needle, possibly brimming over with AIDS or hepatitis, just waiting to infect the poor junkie who has just scored but has nothing to fix with. I thank God for the needle exchange. It has been a real lifesaver for many. Some people I knew in recovery had started the program. Volunteers just hung out on 6th Street with brand new sterile syringes and exchanged the dirty ones, giving them new equipment so they wouldn't share needles. It was a very controversial program when it first began, yet vital to the community. The controversial part was the doing of a certain fallen angel who was stirring all the trouble by initiating the notion in people that this meant the city was supporting drug using. It took some time to convince the world that the needle exchange would decrease the spreading of the disease. Even the most irrational person had to agree that a junkie was just going to fix no matter what anyone did, and the exchange would definitely cut down on the spreading of the AIDS epidemic. Now, directly north of Market Street is the famous Glide Memorial Church, which has housed and fed many homeless, and on Sundays the choir is fabulous. On Market Street, there's no place like it in the whole city of San Francisco. My absolute all-time favorite was an old black lady who sat right in front of the strip club on Market Street named Thelma. She wore tattered clothes with scabs all over her arms and legs and had no teeth and an incredibly worn-out, sad expression on her face. There were rumors that she was actually some kind of tycoon and she was just living on the streets because she was crazy. Regardless, boy did she rake it in. I think she made more than the dancers some nights. The girls would all lay a $10 or $20 bill on her as they were leaving work, and she never had to ask. If she hadn't been a bit crazy, I suppose she would have gotten a hotel. Then one day she refused to take my money because the junkie guys in the neighborhood had realized how much money she was getting, and they had rolled her one night. Because I guess they had worked her over good because she seemed terrified, and from then on she would only take offerings of food from me. How sad it was to see a beaten down old woman become even more beaten down. Tycoon. How ridiculous. I think sometimes people just make up that shit because they don't want to feel an obligation to care. One day, Thelma just wasn't there anymore, and no one knew where she went. And the sad part was no one cared. In my opinion, the problem in the world is that many of us have stopped caring and we have forgotten that we are all connected. We are reminded of this when something bizarre happens that we can't explain and chills cover our body. The message that God and the universe is trying to tell us, all of us, is that we are all connected. And regardless of how weird whatever it is was, some of us are really missing the point. There are those of us who do know and are forever trying to convince the rest of us. And then there is the God versus the universe argument. God is the universe, and the universe is God. One does not exist without the other. And so evolved a similar dance as which came first, the chicken or the egg. I say God, the universe, came way before the chicken and the egg. I was working further down the street at a club called the Crazy Horse. This was way before cell phones. I worked the day shift, and around 6 o'clock I was leaving work. I went to the payphone to order my sushi takeout, and a black homeless man screamed at me, "Who you calling? Don't nobody love you?" At first I was so mad. I turned around and I was going to cuss him out, but what I saw in him was a sad, lonely man who was yelling at me what he felt about himself. So instead of cussing at him, I said, "But I love you." And he lit up like a Christmas tree and said, "I love you too." That experience was life-changing for me. I pray that more can learn the secret of love. If we allowed ourselves to be connected like I did to that man, the fighting and hatred would end and love would reign supreme. I fear if we figured that out, most might wonder what will happen to the way movies and time TV are made. The question might be posed, how will we ever truly be able to be entertained without all the hatred and the violence? Nobody ever thought we'd find the answer to what was the Holy Grail, and thanks to Da Vinci's divine connection to the truth, we are all enlightened once again in our society. So you see that you can't count your chickens before they hatch or they cross the road. However, humans are label junkies. If they can't explain something, they must put some kind of label on it. If someone acts in an unexplainable way, they are psychotic, schizophrenic. Only God, the universe, knows the truth, which is that when we are apart from the connectedness, we sometimes fall apart. We get close and we skirt around the edges, we write about it, but we are still so very far away from it.